Got two distinguished guests here today, Glenn Veal and Pat Osborne. And they've longtime folks here at church, although Pat has left us. She left us. How could she do that? She did so for a very, very good reason, but I don't want to embarrass her about all that. But she had reasons. She moved out of town, so yes, she joined a local church, as we encourage people to do. But these are folks who are well known here at Emmanuel Baptist Church. But there are probably some people who are watching. We hope that there are people watching who are not familiar with everybody at Emmanuel. So let's try to find out a little bit about who these people are. Glenn, you have been at this church for how long now?
Long time.
Long. How long? Go ahead.
62 years.
62 years. Wow. So, but there may be some people who don't know you. Tell us, I guess, a little bit about yourself. Like, where you're from. Tell us about your family. Anything you want to tell us.
Well, if you put the numbers together, it goes way back in my lifetime, like to my beginning. So, yes. Been here all my life. My parents were members of Emmanuel Baptist Church when we were way downtown on Henry Knott Street.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of my childhood was spent down there, but then we moved out here in 75 and watched things grow up around here as well, too. This was the south side. Now it's Midtown again, so. But, yeah.
So our oldest Sunday school class that moved over to the sanctuary for Sunday school, I did not know this, but they were talking about how there was one, they didn't call it a plantation, I guess it was a big farm that went from White Bluff all the way over to Waters. And it included this section right here.
Yeah.
And that's all it was.
Yep.
Wow, crazy.
But, yeah, been here with my parents are long-time members.
Mm-hmm.
Just moved away for a little short period of time, but came back.
Yeah. And your dad, I mean, he was a stalwart member. He was here when he was still around when I got here, and long time. Never did meet your mom though.
Right.
But
she passed away. I lose track of time now, but 20 plus years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And your kids are here. Grandkids are here.
Most of my kids.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, most of them, not all. But anyway, well, great. Glad that you're here, Pat. Where are you from? Tell us.
Michigan.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Northern transplant.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Michigan, but it was just across the state line from Ohio.
Okay.
So we spent a lot of time in Toledo. And then my dad all of a sudden moved all 10 of his kids.
10? Yeah, 9 brothers and sisters?
I'm the oldest of 10.
No way.
And he bought this 250-acre farm. Now, he's a pharmacist. He bought a 250-acre farm in the Appalachian Hills. Turned out to be, this was in my junior year of high school.
Oh.
Turned out to be a blessing because that's where I met David Osborne.
Okay, very good.
And
how long ago was that you met him? What?
Let's see, we've been married 62 years.
62. Wow. Congrats. Awesome.
And then from there, David is a type that he gets itchy feet all the time, so we moved all over the country after the Army first drafted him. Even after he got out, we enjoyed travel.
Yes.
And so we ended up in Savannah because he decided he wanted to own his own business. And we had a convenience store in the corner of Waters and Montgomery Crossroad. And it did not do well, so we got out of that business as quick as we could. And he went back to education. And I stayed in my computer career. And we came here. We were members here almost 20 years, I believe. And then my granddaughter, who lives out the other side of Fort Stewart, decided that she needed help, wouldn't ask us, and we decided, well, we can move out there and help her with her 3 little boys, and we did. So every week we watch a 3-year-old during the daytime, several days a week, and we pick up the boys from school, and we take them to church every Wednesday and Sunday. So we have been quite busy.
Yeah, sounds like it. Mm-hmm. No rest for the weary.
That's what it'd be.
My goodness. Okay. Well, thanks for coming back to do this, because how long does it take you to get here from home?
An hour.
An hour. And she was telling me they were in Savannah earlier today, had to go home an hour away to pick up the boys, and then come back here for this tonight. So So she is well traveled just to be here with us tonight. I do appreciate that. Well, we're going to talk about disaster relief because it really is something that is so, I mean, it's hands-on and it's so practical in tremendous times of need, and it's called disaster relief, and confirmed with them before the camera started rolling that it is a ministry of the Southern Baptist Convention, and so very well organized. I mean, extremely well put together. In fact, I have heard through the years that oftentimes disaster relief is, some of the first ones on scene. A lot of other entities will get credit for being there, but I guess maybe since the Southern Baptist Convention and since it's Christian or whatever, we don't exactly get that notoriety. But it is true. It is true. It's no joke. So, I guess the first thing I'd like to know, just again, I guess continuing y'all's journey. How did you get involved in disaster relief in the first place? We'll talk about what it is in a few minutes, but how did you get to be involved in it in the midst of your story?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Well, it actually happened when we first joined this church.
Okay.
That's why I know it was 20 years ago, because one of the things we heard constantly was that several of the members here who were in disaster relief had gone to, right after Katrina, or during Katrina, and had helped out in Bay St. Louis. And they were talking about it, and it sounded wonderful, all the things that they had done. So Dave and I went, we got trained, got our badges, and we've been in it 20 years, and it's just been a pure blessing for me.
So at that time, just out of curiosity, because I was not here at that time, were there a lot of people in our church who were a part of that?
No, I think there were about 10 or 12 maybe.
Wow, I mean, that's
a
not
good percentage, though, yes.
Right. Okay. Very good. So were you involved in that time or?
Well, no. I came on after they had been in it for a while, but it was kind of the same thing. I remember a good friend of mine who was a former member of the church here. Good influence on me was Gary Mobley. I don't know if anybody remembers him, but he was
I know the name.
very familiar with disaster relief, and he would always kind of put that plug in to help me, get involved. And of course, I was working at that time. And the job that I had at that time, anytime there was a disaster, I was working.
Sure, you had to, yeah.
In that career, so it did not allow me to be able to get involved until much later. And then when right before I retired, I started getting involved with it, and I've kind of got a little more involved since I've been retired. And I got the time to do some of the things and the requirements it is to travel and get
Sure.
away. But. Yeah, it was influence from a good friend here in the church.
Isn't it funny how when there's when you have a ministry like that, the most effective, it's just like everything else, the most effective way to spread the word is by word of mouth. Just as you talk about the things that matter to you and how meaningful it is to you, that kind of story just resonates with people. So that's good. That's very cool. So I guess let's get to the brass tacks. Let's just start off. Very simple. Like, what is it? What does disaster relief do? I mean, you hear disaster relief, but that's pretty wide scoped. So what do y'all do?
It is. Let me give you a couple statistics first, because
Okay.
I kind of play into it.
Okay.
It's a international organization, but nationally we have over 65,000 volunteers.
Holy cow.
In Georgia, we only have 1,800 right now.
Really? That is
But-
surprising. You'd think with 65,000 here in the Bible Belt, that would be... Anyway, go ahead.
Well, and we are the third largest volunteer disaster relief group. Red Cross is first, the Salvation Army is second, and we are third. And we partner with both of them. They use us mostly for preparing the food that they distribute to victims. But they know and like us very much. And so they buy the food, we fix it, they deliver it. And that's why we don't get heard about much. Although we are known about as the Yellow Nation. So if somebody...
I can't imagine why.
They'll say, "Oh, I saw you guys on TV," and I'll say, "Really?" Because usually they avoid it. Well, you guys were in the background working. That's us.
Yeah, that's good.
It covers anything. I know just last month we went to Mississippi to help with after a bad ice storm. And we've been to a lot of flooding. Mostly it's hurricanes, tornadoes. We can do it on a small group too. Like if a church says an apartment building burned down next to us, can you guys come help? We'll send out just 1 or 2 units if the need is there. So we can go big or small. During Hurricane Helene, every one of our units were active for 6 weeks. Really drained our volunteers, but that's why we always need more volunteers. So, and I have a sheet that gives all of our mission areas. And so if
Can I
you
see
want,
that?
yes, if you want me to go through any of those or each one.
Well, actually, so I was thinking, you talk about the food. So obviously there are other areas that y'all work in, and is that what this is a
Yes.
list of?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess it would be good, because this is surprising. Like, I know of disaster relief because I've heard y'all talk about it before, but I didn't know it was all this.
Right.
So I don't know that we have time to get in, like, really into all these, but I guess we should at least mention them and say a word about them.
Okay.
Go for it.
Incident management, that's what we call IMT. They're the ones that kind of coordinate the whole thing once we're on site. And they're the ones that take the work orders from the victims when they come in. We talk to them, we fill out the form with them, and then we talk to them and try and pray with them or talk about Jesus, because our number one goal is to bring more people to Jesus. So that's number one.
Awesome.
Logistics, they're the ones that move all the heavy equipment and they get it to the site as quickly and as efficiently as they can. A lot of CDL drivers and like that. Assessment, they're the ones that once the work order from the victim comes in, they then go out and talk to that family and pray with them and find out just, when they tell us what's wrong, it's not very detailed. So our assessors have to bring us back a lot of detail, how big the trees are, where they're at, even pictures. Chaplain, anybody can be a chaplain that likes to talk about Jesus. We try and embed them in each one of the units. So, example for cleanup and recovery, whoever the chaplain is, he in the blue hat will go up and talk to the family. Then everybody gathers around and prays. And then they go to work, and the chaplain might stay and talk to the family, or he might wander around the neighborhood seeing who else might need help. Feeding. Now, let me say right now, feeding and cleanup and recovery are the 2 main ones. We need lots of people there. We have 2 kinds of feeding. The mass feeding, where we can feed up to 10,000 meals per day.
Wow. Golly.
And then we have the lower level, which only feeds our volunteers, and they can feed up to 250 per day. And but the mass feeding is where we really need the people, because it takes 50 people to be able to, a minimum of 50, to make 10,000 meals per day. Cleanup and recovery, they're the backbone of the whole thing. The rest of us are just support for them. They're the ones that go out and with a chainsaw cut down the trees, but before they start working, they pray with every family, and at the end, they give them a Bible. And some of the team, have you ever been on a team, Glenn, where they cut a cross and a stump for them? That's really neat. If they have a stump left where they cut down a tree, they'll make a cross out of the stump, and that's neat to see. But it's another touch. We try and touch them as many times as we can. Shower and laundry, we call them the angels. They will take your clothes, you bag up your clothes in the evening when you come in from working. They wash them the next day, and when you get them back, they're neatly clean and folded, and you're ready to go again. They also wash all the towels and everything else that we need, because we have shower and washer and dryer units. Cleanup and recovery, that's the backbone. And I know that's where Glenn, I think every time you've gone out, that's where you've worked.
Yeah.
They are absolutely amazing. They can tell you, like if there's a tree to come down, they can actually tell you, we're going to lay it right there. After Matthew, I saw a team do that here in Savannah. they said, we got to get that tree down, and the only place is to go between a garage and a wire fence of the neighbors. There's maybe 6 inches on each side.
No way.
They laid it perfectly between.
No way. That's great.
They can do it. He went through training. There's the 2 of them that have to have extra training are the IMT and the chainsaw. And so to run a chainsaw, you have to go through the class. I hope you got some stories about that.
Stories.
Heavy equipment. There are guys that run the skid steers, the tractors, the man lifts. We now have our own heavy equipment. And so they're the ones that do that. Family care. We love those people. They're the last touch our victims see. Could be the first touch. They may be the ones that go out and give boxes to flooded homes and say, can we help you pack up your things? But they are also the ones that may go back and talk to them before we even get there to work on it. But they always go back at the end to make sure that everything is okay. Sometimes they get some complaints because we didn't cut down all the trees that they wanted us to cut down. But we try and concentrate on those that are on houses in the driveway or blocking, important areas. But they are wonderful. And then we just recently added a new unit called Rebuild. There's a group that will go back 3 to 6 months later and find out those families that cannot afford to rebuild anything. And we do our best to help them. And I don't know much about them, so. Those are the mission areas, and you would fit into any of it. I mean, if you could find one. There's probably more than one, but anybody can fit into any of them.
Well, I'm glad you used that term because I wasn't sure what to call these, but you're calling them mission areas.
Yeah.
And so there's 10.
Yes.
And I mean, you just think, it's almost mind-boggling when you talk about 65,000 volunteers, 10 different mission areas, and then going for flooding and fires and tornadoes and hurricanes and all that kind of stuff. The kind of organization that it requires to be able to do that, that's mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. So what you said that you've worked mostly in the cleanup and recovery?
That's correct. I was right before I retired, I went ahead and got the training that I needed to operate chainsaws and be involved with the cleanup and recovery. And that was right when here locally we got our first unit for disaster relief, cleanup and recovery unit. It's a trailer. It's an enclosed trailer it's loaded down with everything we need: saws, ladders, tarps for roofing, shovels for mud outs, everything that you need is all in that trailer.
What do you mean when you say mud out? What does that mean?
Well, flooding. You think about flooding, you think about water, but it's more than water. It's usually mud. Because with the water comes mud. And the water leaves, the water will eventually leave the house, but the mud doesn't.
Right, not on its own anyway.
No.
So you're talking about when mud gets in the home.
That's correct.
Y'all go in with your shovels and get that stuff out.
That's correct.
Huh.
When a house is flooded, generally most of the time, the best case scenario, it's anything 4 foot and below in the house. And we've seen it up that high, sometimes some a little bit higher, but most of the times it's just enough to come in and destroy all the furniture, everything that's in the house, that's on the floor. And we go in, and of course we have to prepare the homeowner. If you've ever been through a disaster like that, you understand more than anything. The rest of us just have to use our imagination what it must be like to be in that kind of a situation. But you have to go into a bad situation and actually make it worse, because you got to go in their house and take all their precious memories and take it out and put it by the street to be hauled off. Books, furniture, wedding albums, none of it can be saved because everything is now contaminated. We don't know what was in the water that came in the house.
Have you had people who've gone out and tried to retrieve that stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We discourage it, but we can't enforce it.
I guess you can't make them, can
but
you?
we gotta be sure that they understand that everything in this house that had water in it has got to be taken out. And a lot of the times the family, the owner of the home, whether it be a single, person or head of household. Most of the time, in my case, there hadn't been children around. They've been relocated somewhere else while they're going through this. But some of them will sit there and watch. Some of them will want to get involved and help. But
And y'all allow that?
yeah,
Okay.
to help out with the mud outs. Basically, we go in and we cut the sheetrock at 4 foot level. We try to make it as easy to go back when time to rebuild. Anything that had water, water seeps up sheetrock, and generally if it gets to that level. And why we do it at the 4 foot mark, because if you ever work with sheetrock, they're in sheets 4 feet by 8 or 12 feet. So turn it sideways, lay it in there, and it's a lot more efficient when it comes back to
Sure.
rebuilding and putting it back together. But it's an emotional event when you're sitting there and taking there, if you can imagine. Like I said, hopefully you've never been through it, but imagine everything that's in your house, and if it's at that level, it's got to go and be put out by the street to be hauled off. So,
And that includes all appliances and
Yep.
the cabinets.
Cabinets,
Everything.
kitchen cabinets, bathrooms, tubs, anything that water get behind, it's totally ripped out and taken out. And you can look all the way through a house when we're through with it.
Oh my goodness.
All the way. It's and we've had a lot of different experiences with that. I remember one in particular up in West Virginia. There's 3 houses that were down by the creek when they had some of the heavy rains. And of course, in the mountains, heavy rains, where does it go? It goes down in the valleys, and the creeks all of a sudden become rivers. And there were 3 houses all right there together that every one of them was flooded, and 2 of them were family members. And this one individual sat there and watched us we were there for about 3 days, I think it was, but for the first 2 days, he just sat on the porch and was watching us. And every one of us would have an opportunity to talk to him. We'd share our story, we'd share why we do it. He just could not understand why we would do it, why we were doing it. And on the 3rd day, when we were finishing up, the right person talked to him at the right time, and that's when he gave his life to Christ. Because
wow.
he could not understand why somebody was doing that. And we all have that same story. We're not worthy, but Christ was what motivates us to do what we do.
Sure.
And after he heard it from everybody on the team, and
Yeah.
then finally the right person got to him on that last day, it was life-changing for him in more than one way.
Yeah.
So that was neat.
And that's so illustrative of how it works. You plant a seed and you water it and you cultivate it and all that. And that's why really the whole church is called to share, because you just don't ever know when that one extra word said just the way that this person over here who may think that they're uneducated, may think that they're not ready for that, but they just say it their way and it's real to them. That's when the harvest comes. So very cool. So which of these areas do you work in?
Dave and I are trained in 5 different areas.
Dave's her husband.
Yeah. And but due to our age, we've kind of given up on cleanup and recovery, and we now work mostly with IMT or feeding. Although feeding can get pretty hard too. I have one little story to share about when we were in Louisiana, I believe it was. We were working on a cleanup and recovery team, and I don't do chainsaw. All I do is pull the branches to the street. And I was pulling branches, and I kept hearing this voice saying, "Lady, lady." And I looked around, and there was only 2 ladies on the team, and she was out front. So I thought, okay, they're talking to me, and I couldn't find it. Finally, they were ready to fell the tree, and everybody said, "Get back." So I leaned against the house, and that voice came, "Lady, talk to me." And I looked down, and here's this window about open this much, and the voice was coming from there.
Huh.
And I bent down, and I looked in, and here's a guy in a bed with oxygen, and he said, "Oh, you finally heard me." And I said, "Yes, sir. And I'm just standing there going, And he said, "Why are you guys here?" And he said, "What are you doing out there?" And so I explained that, his brother had put in a request, and we had come out to clean up the tree on his house and one in the yard that was blocking the driveway. And he said, "I didn't even know that." And he said, "But why? Why are you doing it?" So I talked about, at that time our motto was serving Christ in crisis. And I talked about, you guys needed help, and Jesus sent us here to help you. And he kept saying, "But I don't understand." So I went a little more, and I stood there talking to him, even though I should have been busy, but Christ comes first.
Yes.
And so I bent over talking to him for almost half an hour. And I really didn't make any headway. But the neat thing is, when you go back that evening after supper, they always have debriefing. And anybody can tell their story about people they've interacted with that day. So that night I said, we got someone we need to pray for. And I explained the situation, which brought a few laughs. Never talked about Jesus through a window before. And so everybody was praying, and every team that touched him after that point went in and did talk to him. We did not hear of a conversion, but we think God kept working somehow or other. God knew how to do it. So.
Yeah. Well, so what else? What are some other things that y'all have done that really kind of stand out that were, I guess, meaningful to y'all in your work with this? It might be a story like that. It might be a job that you were on.
You go to some places, that area in West Virginia that I first talked about, there was a certain town that was in bad shape as it was, and this particular flooding was so bad the entire town was wiped out. I don't know to this day if it's ever had been able to recover any at all, because it was already almost all the way down, and then every building, every store, every house in that town was affected in some way.
And how long ago was this that we're talking?
This was probably 3 years ago now,
Okay.
I think it was. In West Virginia, you all remember those heavy rains that just kind of hovered over the mountains there in,
Oh,
in
yeah,
West
yeah.
Virginia.
I'd forgotten about
and
that.
those towns, the small little areas along these riverbeds, and just was totally wiped out. And we did what we could do in that town. Most of the stuff that was needed to be done there was like bulldozers coming through and just clearing out the streets and to get to houses. I remember one particular house. It was a 2-story house. They were living upstairs, and total bottom of the house was so trashed. We tried to go in and we muttered it out and cleaned it out, but they didn't know what they were going to do going forward. As you know, most of these places like that, and you think about, well, insurance comes in and helps, and it does sometimes if you can afford insurance.
Yeah, right.
But you're only going to get so much through your insurance. So what we do when we go through and do a mud out on a house, and everything we do has been estimated to $8,000 to $10,000 worth of work
For
a contractor to come in and do what we do.
For each house?
For each house.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you can save them that much money, what they do get in a settlement or insurance or whatever can go towards rebuilding instead of having to do all that. So
Sure.
it is a tremendous asset and blessing for those. And the thing about it too is, we as believers and Christians, we want to try to go out and get into neighborhoods and homes where they're inviting us in.
Yeah, right.
And they're happy to see us. And they are generally most attentive to listening to what we got to say and what our story is. And I remember, as far as north I went, I've been up to Pennsylvania.
Okay.
That was a long haul.
Yeah.
Part of the country I've never been to before. And we were working up there, and if you know anything about that area up there, it's not very Christian friendly. But a lot of questions was in there. I remember this one young lady that lived up on the high ground, so she wasn't affected, but that was her people there that was hurting it. So she would talk to us and wanted to come down and help. And we told her who we were and why we were there, and we witnessed to it. She said, I don't care nothing about your religion. I don't want nothing to do with your religion. Said, but I just want, want to help people. Said, she worked right there alongside of us for 2-3 days, helping us, helping her neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of influence we had on her life,
You
God
do not
only
know.
knows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the fact that she was, she was there and she cared. She wanted to help her community out because she knew she was fortunate, I guess, that she wasn't affected like they were.
Sure.
But you run into quite some interesting situations in different parts of the country, wherever you go.
So what's the longest that y'all have served on one particular location? How long do you get there?
We were 2 weeks in Long Island, New York.
2 weeks. That's a
Yeah.
long time.
But I would like to mention my first impression of going out on deployment was to a mass feeding site. They put David in low level to feed the volunteers, but they put me on the bus early in the morning with 50 other people and said, you're mass feeding today. It was over Thanksgiving. They were having trouble getting volunteers. When that bus pulled into the feeding site, first thing you see are 14 semi-trailers. That's the inventory. They have a forklift running around to bring the inventory to 2 white tents, very big tents. One's for meat and one's for everything else. And they assigned me to work on a tilt skillet that holds 40 gallons of food. All they wanted me to do was stir the beef stew, and they give you this half paddle. But I was too short, so they had to find
That would be me.
they had to find a couple pallets for me to stand up. And I stirred, and I'd get tired, so they said, okay, half an hour. You stir for half an hour, we'll get someone else to do it for half an hour. And the tilt skillets are amazing because what you do is when it's up to temp, it has to be, then they can tilt it into a Cambro, which looks very much like a cooler, but it has higher specs. And you pour it into there into a plastic bag. And you have a certain way you got to twist it and everything and get it, put the lid on. And they have a way that you can check the temperature before you feed people to be sure that it's up to temp even 8 hours later. And the second job they gave me was to wash the cans, baked beans, these kind of cans, the big ones, to wash the lids before they went into the one that opened them. And that lady stood there all day long, pulled a can over that I had cleaned. She'd pull it into thing, reach up, clap this, it would immediately lift the lid, and she just shot it. So all day long she's doing that.
Huh.
And that's mass feeding.
Huh. Wow.
So that was the one time we fed actually a full 10,000 meals for one meal.
So let's in the remaining time we've got left, okay? We've as much time as we need, but let's say that there is someone who like even this lady who doesn't want the religion or whatever wants to help, and certainly believers who see the value in touching lives at probably some of the greatest moments of crisis that these people have ever seen, and it's something that they want to be a part of. Okay, let's just say that somebody wants to be a part of this, or even just support it. But let's just talk about participation first. There are 10 mission areas. That's a lot. And so, and most, I can't think of anybody who couldn't do something, in all
Right.
this. So, if somebody wanted to do this, what would be the first step? What would be the first thing that they would need to do to get started in?
Fill out a form online, and we have at the bottom of this, there's a website to go to.
Okay, is that the website that's on here? Okay, so the website is on the bottom of your screen right now. So that's pretty simple. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
And you fill out the form, and we have a minimum of 6 trainings per year. We have 6 regions in the state that we've designated, so there's one in each region, so something's fairly close. And it's an 8-hour training, 4 hours on a Friday night, 4 hours on a Saturday morning. And the first one is orientation for just disaster relief. The second one, you pick one of the categories, and you go to get special training on it. But the neat thing is, when there's a call out like we have right now, you can go to any of them. And you just call that mission director and say, do you have room for me on these dates? And they usually give you a calendar of how many weeks we're going to be there. And if he has room, he says, come on. And so you get mostly on-the-job training. And that way a lot of people move around to the different areas, which Dave and I have done a lot of. And so that's how you get trained. And at the end of training, you get your yellow hat and you get your badge. So you're ready to go.
There are two things about that stand out to me. First of all, if you are talking about organizing that many volunteers, certainly that training, that's one of the ways that they would have to do that, I'm sure, to initiate everybody and give them understanding. And so that really does make a lot of sense that kind of training would be necessary. But also just to be able to know how to, what you're being asked to do and those kind of things. The second thing is, I know from talking with you that there are always a lot of moving parts, because you went for 2 weeks that one time, but there are other times where you go and there are still recovery efforts that are ongoing and you got to go home. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm saying that also just to acknowledge the extreme amount of organization that goes into it, but also for someone who might be interested, they might not be able to give that much time. But that doesn't mean that you're not useful, because right. you sign up for the time that you can, and then they've got people coming and going. That's what all this is about. So.
When Helene hit here, that was pretty close to home. Mm-hmm. And I was working out of Statesboro, and I was driving back and forth every day instead of staying on site. Mm-hmm. When you go to stay, you just stay in a church somewhere, or you bring your own sleeping bag, okay. mattress, whatever you got, and a church provides you a place, and they'll bring the shower unit in for you, so mm-hmm. you have everything you need, and they feed you well. So, but when you go to farther away places, Pennsylvania was 2 days almost of traveling to get there. So when you get there, you want to make it worth your while. So sure. you usually have 5 working days, a day or two of travel on each end of it. So. Mm-hmm. But again, some people can only do so much, and that doesn't disqualify you from going.
Sure, yeah.
Whatever time you can give, go.
They only want you to work 5 days because it is a little strenuous physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Mm. And they want you to rest, and then you're welcome to come back again.
And they won't kick you out, right?
Right. But now they've opened it up, so we had so many people that could just work on weekends. And so now they've opened it up. You can come from 1 day or you can come for 5 days. Mm-hmm. And the one time we worked actually 2 weeks back to back, but they said you have to leave for one night, then you can come back. So that's what we did. Now they've changed that so you can work as many days, but they try and send you home at the end of 5.
Sure, yeah.
And we've got teams rolling in to handle that.
Mm-hmm. We've worked with different organizations. I remember I believe it was in Statesboro. We had the team from Texas that was here working with us.
Wow.
Disaster relief.
Yeah, disaster relief out of Texas and Georgia. Southern Baptist.
Actually, there were 17 states that responded to Helene and Georgia that came and helped us out.
Wow. So you were the most recent to go through the training. You don't have to get into a whole lot of detail, because I guess people will figure that out when they go, but overall, what did you find the value of that training was?
Well, the biggest part is, the 4 hours, say, on Friday night is general information, what we do. We're unapologetically Christian organization, and that we're using this as our opportunity to minister and share to people the gospel of Jesus Christ. And then if you, whatever particular area that you choose to use, you get more in-depth instructions in that particular area.
Right.
Now, when you go to cleanup and recovery, to operate chainsaws, and trust me, if you're working with somebody, you want them to be trained in chainsaws. You know, when you get a good crew together and you know who everybody is, that's great. That's the best situation. But sometimes you got somebody you've never met before, and you've got to drop this tree in the right place, and you want to, be on the same page and everybody. So it gets everybody pretty close together
Sure.
with the same idea. You usually have one person that is actually, what we call the blue hat on the crew is the one who's runs through them.
Okay.
That way,
They're
not
kind of in
everybody-
charge. They're the
not
in charge
everybody's
people.
out there jumping out with chainsaws and going at it. It's supposed to be pretty well organized. So you appreciate that when you go out there
Sure.
in these situations. But hands-on is by far the best. And chainsaw, you do. I was I've been using chainsaws all my life. So it wasn't a big adjustment for me. They have some safety features that I guess I wasn't always doing, but but they want you to do it.
Right.
The safety features. So
Again, that's making sure everybody's on the same page.
That's right.
So,
And
yeah.
that blue hat will tell you when you're not
and
doing
if you see
it.
somebody, everybody has the opportunity to correct or to help somebody if you see them doing something that maybe is not
Sure.
the best way or the safest way. And so just hands-on training is vital.
So, real quick, last thing I can think of, unless y'all bring up something else that I want to ask about. You've got what is the main reason that you would tell someone to get involved with disaster relief?
Number of salvations. Last year, and it wasn't even the Helene year, it was the year after, nationally we had 657 salvations that we know of.
Sure.
And just the week that I was in Mississippi, we had 6. So we do reach people, and it's just such a blessing. Every time I come home, it's so wonderful to have worked with all Christian volunteers for a whole week. I'm on a cloud for almost another week.
When you're not asleep, right? You're
Yeah,
recovering
that's
from the from the trip. Yeah, that's good. All right. What would you say?
Well, another thing too is how personal is it to you? Most of us, it's a story of somebody else that we know. But if you've ever gone through a disaster, or been a part of a disaster, or been affected by a disaster, what you've received out of it, you want to be able to give back.
Sure.
Even right here close to Georgia, we've been seeing and feeling the smoke from the fires that's been going on. I've heard numbers of acres that's been burnt, but I also know there's been houses totally destroyed. And that is another thing. It's not necessarily, but it's unfollowing the cleanup and recovery is we sent a team out to Colorado when they had those bad fires out there and destroyed a bunch of homes. Well, you don't think about it. Fire does destroy a home, but there's jewelry, there's precious items that was in that house at one time that the people would like to get. So we'll send a team in there, and basically you're digging through the ashes, sifting through ashes, and finding, wedding rings.
What I was about to say, yeah.
Any kind of things like that, precious memories. Just one, few small things for people to hang on to that may have otherwise been destroyed and lost forever. So.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that does bring up one other thing, and then we'll be finished. So we've got a disaster unfolding right in front of us right now in our own backyard. What do you think nationwide in our own backyard? And so have the efforts? Where's disaster relief in its efforts where that fire is concerned?
Day one, a low-level feeding unit went in to feed the firemen, policemen, and those workers. This time it wasn't any of our volunteers. It was just feeding the people that were doing the work. As of Friday, we're going to have, most of the missions are going to be there. I actually volunteered. I volunteered late, so I'm not sure they still need me. But I may be deploying on Friday for feeding if I'm still needed. So most of the units are going out to help now. You have to wait till the embers dry down so that you can do things as
Sure.
part of it. Just like you have to wait till the water leaves.
Okay.
They got shower units operating now for the firemen, and of complete with the laundry units that's there, helping
Yeah.
them get their clothes cleaned. All that's on site, run off of generators and everything, all self-contained. So,
Yeah. Every unit is self-contained. We hope we don't have to use it, and most churches are very gracious in letting us use their kitchen and family areas for the low level. But many times on mass feedings, we have to be self-contained, and we have to answer to the health departments everywhere we go.
Oh, yeah, true, yeah. Well, it's very cool, because Southern Baptist Convention is not perfect. We've got our issues, we've got several issues going on right now, but this is one of those things that makes you proud to be a part of Southern Baptist Convention, because it really does show that we care. I believe we do, and as a convention, I believe that it really does matter to us, and so proud of that. Proud of y'all. Thank y'all for coming and joining with us and sharing with us all this. And let me just encourage you, if you're looking for something meaningful to be a part of. I mean, obviously every week, not every week, but many weeks, we are highlighting some kind of a ministry, some kind of a mission, and we encourage you to be involved. No different with this. If you are looking for something that really makes a difference in people's lives, like on the ground level, at the greatest time of need, you just heard about it. Pray, and then reach out to that website that you have there on your screen. All right. Okay. Thank y'all. Let us pray, and then we'll go. God, we live in a world that can be chaotic, and people do hurt, and tragedy does strike, and there is such great need. There's so much hurting around us, and Lord, I just thank you for disaster relief. I thank you for those who lead that and organize that. I thank you for the volunteers, like the two that I'm sitting with in here. I just thank you for them and all the work that goes into all of that. And as we see a disaster unfolding right in front of us, and we can see the effects of it in our skies as neighbors, Lord, I pray that you'd give them all that they need to really make a difference in the lives of people. And they may not be able to save that home that has already burned up, but at least the people can know that they're not alone, that people care about them, that will help guide them into what is next and give them hope. And ultimately, we thank you for the gospel that gives us good news in the midst of tragedy, and that lives can be changed for all of eternity, so that as this ministry is doing its work, they are changing lives here, but they're also changing lives in the afterlife as well. And so I pray your blessings upon them and the work that goes into it. Thank you for our time together tonight to be able to talk about that. And I thank you for all those who have watched, and pray that you'd speak to them as to what response they should have, and if they should be involved, and how so. And may they take a step out in faith to do as you lead. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right, thank you all for joining with us. We look forward. Next week we're going to have a special Life Lessons with Lane podcast as we highlight moms leading up to Mother's Day. But anyway, hopefully you will come and join with us on Sunday before that takes place. All right, thanks. We'll see y'all later. Thank y'all.